If it's Saturday night, it is Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Hello, friends. It's Anthony Floyer here with you for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Apologies for the very late start tonight. Michael Bullock was gallivanting around town as always, and Derek Ferrer and Michael Fletcher not joining us because they were both covering tonight's UFC 192 pay-per-view. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a fast-paced show here tonight, folks. So we're just gonna shoot them out. We're gonna try not to do. We're gonna try not to go into too much detail, but I'll still do what I usually do. I'll still do. I'll let you know who will be the announcers for each game. I'll also give you the spreads and everything else. And the history and all that. I'll still do that, but we just need to make it a little on the faster side because it's also power rankings as well. So without any further ado, Michael Bullock and I, we're here and we're now. So we're just gonna dive right in and get to our first game on the docket for week number 4 of the NFL season. Which, man, I mean, it feels like just yesterday the season started, but nonetheless, here we are, and we're gonna do this. So just bear with me as I get my information up here. Week 4, of course, kicked off on Thursday night with another exciting Thursday night game with the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I was very pleasantly surprised at. The reason why I'm pleasantly surprised is because of the fact that these for a good majority of last year, these Thursday night games were really not to our liking, as there were too many dud enhancement games and all that good stuff. But right now, I mean, that's just that much better this time around. I mean, 3 of these 4 games have been pretty good and down to the wire. So hey, we'll take that, as you know. But all right, got all my information here. So here we go. We're going to kick it off with the game that's going to be live from Wembley Stadium in London, England. The New York Jets going up against the Miami Dolphins. Of course, this game will be seen on CBS. We're going to get it here. And I don't need a dirt sheet. I already know who's calling this game. Ian Eagle, along with Dan Fouts and Evan Washburn, they're going to be in London for this game. Jets are the favorites. They are a 1.5 to 2 point favorite against the Dolphins. And looking at just real quick, looking at the series history here between both of these teams. The New York Jets lead the all-time series 51-46 with a tie, and that one tie was in 1981 in Miami. Of course, let's see. Both teams split last year. Both teams winning in each other's stadiums. The Dolphins won in New York. The Jets won in Miami, and they've actually done that each of the last 3 years. They've split with both teams winning on the other's home fields. So. But this game will not be at MetLife Stadium or in Sun Life Stadium. This game will be in London, England. And, both teams splitting the last 3 years. So, all right. Now that we have all the information out of the way, I'm going to go with the Jets in this game. I mean, the Dolphins are terrible. I'm sorry to say that because, they got beaten down by Buffalo last week, much to my delight and much to the chagrin of Michael Fletcher and Eric Carrier. So, So behind Ryan Fitzpatrick and that stout defense, I'm going to go with the Jets to win this game. I'm going to say 20-17. The New York Jets beat the Miami Dolphins in London, England. So with that said, Michael Bullock, fast-paced show tonight, man. Let's get to it.
All right. Thank you very much, Anthony Flora. Yes, this is Mike Bullock here for another edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Delighted to be here as always. Yes, I'm going to make it short and sweet. I'm going with the Jets as well to win this game. I do too. Don't have any confidence in this Miami Dolphins team after the way they sucked last week against your Buffalo Bills, Anthony Florio. So, I mean, the Jets did show some fight in that. So, in the game in the loss against the Eagles. So, yeah. So behind Ryan Fitzpatrick and that defense. I got to go with the Jets to win this one. I'm going to say probably 24-17 is going to be the final. So enough said on that. Let's move on to our next game.
And you're going to be leading off on that game, Michael Bullock, as soon as I get it all up here. All right. Another CBS game. It's going to be the Houston Texans going up against the Atlanta Falcons in the Georgia Dome. Like I said, it's on CBS. Kevin Harlan and Rich Gannon will be calling the game for CBS. And the Falcons are 5.5 to 6-point favorites. Can't say I'm surprised on that. So with that said, Michael Bullock, the Houston Texans against the undefeated Atlanta Falcons. Who you got?
Yeah, basically, I gotta go with the Atlanta Falcons in this one. I mean, basically, of course, they're coming off of a 39-28 win against Dallas, thanks to a pair of second half touchdown passes from Matt Ryan to Julio Jones, and yes, the defense basically held up, really did good against that Cowboys offense, and I really don't have confidence in the Houston Texans, especially with their quarterback situation. So behind Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, and the rest of that Atlanta Falcons team, I got to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this one. I'm going to say I'm going to go 38 to 17 is going to be the final score. So Florio, it's yours.
I forgot to mention the series history before I threw it to you, Bullock. Houston Texans lead the all-time series 2-1. Last meeting was in 2011. That was in Houston. Houston won that game 17-10. The previous meeting in Atlanta was in 2007. Atlanta won that game 26-16. And then their first meeting was in 2003 with Houston winning 17-13 in Houston. So yeah, it's a 2-1 advantage for the Houston Texans. But this time around, I agree with you, Bullock. I'm not really feeling Houston either. Of course, I did forget to mention the Jets suffered their first loss last week against Philadelphia, and you already know what happened to Miami as they got spanked by Buffalo, much to my delight. The Atlanta Falcons, of course, going into Dallas and pulling off another come-from-behind victory, 39-28, and the Texans. Houston actually won their first game last week against Tampa Bay. 19-9 was the final there. So, but I got Atlanta in this game as well, Bullock. I agree with you 100%. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, they're all going to have big games here. So I will agree with you. The Atlanta Falcons should win this game going away. I'm going to go 34-13. Atlanta beats Houston in what should be a relatively somewhat of an easy game for the Atlanta Falcons. So give me Atlanta in that one. All right. Next up, we're going to go to our first Fox game, and it's going to be a rematch of Super Bowl 25, my friends. The New York Giants against the Buffalo Bills. This game will be at Ralph Wilson Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. Kenny Albert, Daryl Moose Johnston, and Laura Oakman will be on the call for Fox. And the Bills are the favorites, 5 to 5.5 point favorites, which I'm kind of surprised because of the fact that, LaShawn McCoy and Sammy Watkins will not be playing in this game for Buffalo. So I think a lot of that is due to the tremendous defense of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, considering what they did against Fletcher's Miami Dolphins last week, I mean, just absolutely pounded them to a pulp. And you better believe Buffalo will be in the power rankings later on. But looking at the series history between these two great teams, Buffalo leads the all-time series 6-5. Last meeting was in 2011. That was at MetLife in New York. The Giants won that 27-24. Last meeting in Buffalo was in 2007. The Giants won that 38-21. I remember that game very well. A snowy day in Buffalo. It was late in the 2007 season. That's when the Giants were, starting to make their big push towards winning Super Bowl 42. So, and I'll never forget. I believe it was Ahmad Bradshaw had the game of his life in that game as well. So, but nonetheless, though, Buffalo hasn't beaten the Giants at home since 1993. Back in the glory days, 17-14 was the final on that game. So, so Buffalo will look to win at home against the G-Men for the first time in 22 years. So, I'm hoping they can do it. I still like them to win, even though I really don't think. Even though my confidence is not all that high, considering that LaShawn McCoy and Sammy Watkins are both out. But we still got Tyrod Taylor, who's amazing. We still have Percy Harvin. And of course, that defense rock steady. So I think they'll get to Eli and they'll fluster him a little bit. Maybe they'll contain Odell Beckham. I'm hoping for that. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills in this game. Should be an exciting game, though. It's usually exciting when these two get together. 24-17, the Buffalo Bills over the New York Giants, even though my confidence level went from very high down to very low. So, it's more like in the middle. So, but I'm still gonna take a chance and go with my team. 24-17 is the final for me. So, Michael Bullock, New York Giants, Buffalo Bills. Who you got? Bullock, who you got?
Oh shoot. Sorry about that. Forgot to unmute my mic there. Um, yeah, when it comes to I'm actually going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win this one. I think this is going to be a close one to say the very least. Because I mean, yes, you're not going to have LaShawn McCoy and Sammy Watkins, but the thing is, you still have still have Carlos Williams, who I thought had a real good game with 110 yards on 12 carries against the Dolphins, and yes, you got Percy Harvin, who can still make some big plays, and then I mean with the Giants, they're not going to have Victor Cruz. I mean, we all thought maybe he was on his way back, but he re-injured himself in practice, and yeah, and basically, I really just don't have any confidence in this New York Giants team. So, give me the Buffalo Bills to win this one behind, especially behind that defense of theirs. I'm gonna say probably 27-24 is gonna be the final. So really got nothing more to say except let's move on to our next 1 o'clock game.
And you'll be leading off on this one, Michael Bullock. Back to CBS, as it will be the Oakland Raiders going up against the Chicago Bears from Soldier Field in Chicago. The game will be on CBS. The great Greg Gumbel, along with Trent Green and our old friend from Nesson, Jamie Erdahl, they're going to be on the call for that game in Chicago. And believe it or not, folks, this is not a misprint, my friends. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but the Raiders are the favorites. Yes, I said it. The Oakland Raiders are the favorites. 3 to 3.5 point favorites in this game. Series history: Oakland Raiders lead the all-time series 7-6. Last meeting was in 2011. That was in Oakland. The Raiders won that 25-20. Last meeting in Chicago was in 2003. Chicago won that 24-21. And the last time the Raiders won in Chicago was in 1993. The Raiders won that 16-14. Of course, that was back when they were the Los Angeles Raiders. So with all that said, Michael Bullock, Oakland Raiders, Chicago Bears, who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I'm going with the Oakland Raiders to win this one. I've been impressed with the last 2 wins. I mean, of course, a couple of weeks ago, beating the Baltimore Ravens, and then of course beating the Cleveland Browns 27-20, and thanks to a Charles Woodson interception late, and yeah, and basically you've also had. I like what I've seen from Latavius Murray and rookie Amari Cooper, and yeah, and the thing with the Bears, I mean, no Jay Cutler, no Alshon Jeffrey. Yeah, what does that tell you? It's not going to be a good day for the Chicago Bears. So give me, as Chris Berman would like to say, the Oakland Raiders to win this one. My final score is going to be, I'm going to go 24-17 is going to be the final score. So, Florio, I give it to you.
Yes, we're in agreement. But then again, we always are. I got the Raiders winning this game too. I mean, I have no confidence in Jimmy Clausen. I love him. He's a Notre Dame guy. That's why I love him. But I'm sorry. He's only I think he's only like 1-11 or 1-12 as a starter all time. Yeah, that's not going to get it done. And yeah, Cutler's going to be out again, so he'll probably be starting. Forte, a couple of weeks ago he had a good game against Green Bay, but he's been non-existent since. And And no Jeffrey. You said no Alshon Jeffrey Bullock. He's out too. Wow, amazing. So and you said it, Bullock. I mean, Oakland has won 2 in a row. I mean, they got beaten down by the Bengals on opening day, but last second win against the Ravens at home, and then going into Cleveland, winning there for the first time in 30 years. So Oakland could be on their way, my friends. You never know. But I like Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr's body of work's getting better and better each week, and I think he'll continue to do well. And the running game, and of course Amari Cooper. You know my love affair with Amari Cooper. I mean, you remember last year during College Football Friday, the love affair I expressed for that young man because I love his body of work. So I expect him to have a big game, as will Carr. And I think the defense will fluster and get to Clauston and all that. So the Oakland Raiders, yes, they're going to do it again, my friends. Can't believe I'm saying that. Give me the Raiders 20. I'm going to go 23-10. The Oakland Raiders over the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. So very surprised that I'm saying that. So, all right, moving on to our next game. Staying with the CBS theme, the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, the location. The Bengals are the favorites, 3.5 to 4-point favorites. And calling the game for CBS will be Spiro Dedes and Solomon Wilcots. And we're going to get this game on our local CBS affiliate, WPRI 12 here in Rhode Island. So, but before I move on, I did forget to mention the Giants lost to the Giants beat, actually. They actually picked up their first win on the Thursday night against the Redskins at home. And Raiders, they beat Cleveland, and Chicago, of course, got beaten down and got spanked by the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. So not at all surprised there. So the Chiefs, they had that big win in Houston on opening day, but since then, a tough loss to Denver, and just dug themselves too big of a hole against Green Bay, mainly because of Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, and then of course Cincinnati 3-0, beat down Oakland, and then got by San Diego, and then another win and then another come from behind win against the Ravens. A little bit of some Shakespearean drama in that one. So, yeah, Bengals are the favorites, like I said, 3.5 to 4. I got to go with Cincinnati. I mean, I love the Bengals' body of work. Andy Dalton has been playing very well lately. I mean, especially last week. I think he's going to have another big game here. I also think AJ Green's going to go off. Maybe the running game with Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. Maybe we'll see another old friend of mine from Notre Dame, Mr. Tyler Eifert. I think he'll get into the act as well. Alex Smith should have a solid game. I think Jamal Charles will have a solid game too, and as well as Travis Kelce. And for the first time since 2013, a wide receiver scored a touchdown for the Chiefs in their 38-28 loss to Green Bay at Lambeau. So we'll see how that goes. But for right now, I got to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're the hot team. They're one of the hot teams right now. They're definitely going to be in the upper echelon of the power rankings when we get to that. So Cincinnati keeps on rolling. I'm going to say the final score here. I'm going to go 34-24. The Cincinnati Bengals will remain undefeated with another win as they knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, who I'm sure will give a game effort. So with that said, Michael Bullock, Kansas City Chiefs, Cincinnati Bengals. For me, I consider this the AFC game of the week. I don't know about you, but what do you think? KC and Cincy, who you got?
Yeah, I guess you could say this is pretty much the AFC game of the week, and yeah, basically Cincinnati's off to a 3-0 start, and yeah, and I like what they've done, especially with Andy Dalton. Basically, with what he did. I mean, 866 yards with 8 touchdowns and 1 pick so far. And what he did last week against the Ravens, he passed for 383 yards with 3 touchdowns in the win over Baltimore. And of course, 2 of the touchdowns went to AJ Green, and he had 227 yards receiving. So yeah, and yeah, so basically, Chiefs coming off of that loss to Green Bay on Monday night. So yeah, I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning this one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go a little higher and say 37-27 is gonna be the final. Dalton's gonna have a good game. AJ Green's gonna have a good game. We'll probably get some Jeremy Hill and Gio Bernard. Alex Smith and Jamal Charles, I think, will have good games for Kansas City, and they'll try to keep this team in the game. But in the end, too much Cincy here. So give me the Bengals to win this one. So that being said, Florio, let's move on to our next 1 o'clock game that I'll talk about.
Before I do that, I did forget to mention the history, the series history with the Bengals and the Chiefs. Cincinnati leads that 14-13, and Cincinnati has won the last 3 meetings, including the last one in 2012, with 28-6 at Arrowhead Stadium in KC. Last meeting in Cincy was in 2009. The Bengals won 17-10, and the Kansas City Chiefs have not won in Cincinnati since all the way back in 1984. Yes, 1984, 27-22. So I don't think that's going to change here and now. So okay, moving on to our next game that Michael Bullock will indeed be leading off on. Yet another CBS game. And we're going to go to the AFC South as the Jacksonville Jaguars will go up against the Indianapolis Colts from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And the Colts, not surprising, are sizable favorites here. They're favorited by 9 to 9.5 points according to my spread. Calling this game for CBS will be Tom McCarthy and Adam Archuleta. They will be on the call for CBS during that game. And I know for a fact the series history favors the Indianapolis Colts. I know that for a fact. I just want to, double check on that to make sure. Got a PDF file here that I'm working with. Yes. Sizable. 20-8 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts all time, including, I believe they've won the last 5 straight meetings between these two, because I know Indy swept last year. They swept in 2013. Their last split was in 2012, with Jacksonville actually winning in Indy and Indy winning in Jacksonville. But nonetheless, Indy's won the last 5 meetings in this series. So, and of course, Michael Bullock, the big concern, obviously, Andrew Luck, questionable for the game. So I got to ask, luck or no luck, do the Colts still beat the Jacksonville Jaguars? Yes or no?
Yes, they'll still beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, with or without Andrew Luck here, because let's face it, the Jacksonville Jaguars are pretty much, shall I say, meh, especially after they got blown out by the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots last week. So yeah, and the thing is, of course, I mean, even with no, you still got Matt Hasselbeck, who's had some good seasons, especially when he was with the Seattle Seahawks, leading them to Super Bowl 40. And then, of course, you still got Frank Gore, you still got Andre Johnson, you still got T.Y. Hilton. So yeah, and I think the defense will definitely play better. And I got Indy winning this one. I think the final score for me is going to be, I'm going to say 38 to 14 is going to be the final score. So with that being said, Florio, I give it to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got Indy winning this game as well. I'm going to be honest with you. I really, really, really hope that Andrew Luck will be playing, because he's on my fantasy team, and I did not start my backup Joe Flacco. So Luck has got to go, because if he doesn't, well, that could open the door big time for Michael Fletcher, because I'm playing Fletcher this week in our fantasy football league. So I just wanted to share that with you real quick. But nonetheless, luck or no luck, even if it's Matt Hasselbeck or even if it's Josh Johnson, who he just recently signed, there's still T.Y. Hilton. There is still Andre Johnson and Frank Gore, Colby Fleener, Dante Moncrief, Dwayne Allen. The defense, I'm sure they'll have their moments. So, and like Bullock said, Jacksonville got spanked in Holiday Hand, much to his delight, because it was his team, his Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, who put a 51-17 Holiday hamming on them at Gillette last week in Indianapolis. Just barely survives and gets their first win against a very game Tennessee Titan team down in Nashville, 35-33. So, but I think all those guys are going to have big games for Indy. I'm hoping Luck plays, because if he plays, I'm sure he's going to have the best game of this season so far. Pray to God, I hope. But I got Indianapolis winning this game. I'm gonna go. I'll go 30. You know what? I'm gonna go 31-10. That's gonna be my final score. 31-10. The Indianapolis Colts over the Jacksonville Jaguars, make it 6 in a row against their AFC South rivals. So, all right, moving on to our next game. It's going to be the Carolina Panthers going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. This game will be on Fox, and calling the game for Fox will be none other than Chris Myers, Rondé Barber, and Jennifer Hale. And the Carolina Panthers are the favorites, 3 to 3.5 point favorites. Series history is in favor of the Carolina Panthers. Carolina leads the all-time series 18 to 11, and which includes Carolina has actually dominated in this series. They've won the last 4 meetings because they swept Tampa last year and they swept Tampa the year before. Tampa has not beaten Carolina since 2012 at home. 16 to 10, and in 2012, Tampa Bay actually swept that series, believe it or not, as Tampa also won in Charlotte, 27 to 21. So, but Carolina, however, has won the last 4 because they swept in 13, they swept last year, so 4 in a row for Carolina in this series, including the last 2 in Tampa, which is where this game will be. So, of course, Carolina coming off of a victory against the. They came away with another win last week as they improved to 3-0 as they beat the New Orleans Saints at home and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they had that loss. They lost to the Houston Texans. So this is a no-brainer for me. I got to go. I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers in this game. I like Cam Newton. Cam Newton should have a big game. I think I'm hoping that Jonathan Stewart has a big game as another one of my fantasy guys. He hasn't been producing much, but I'm hoping he has a solid game at least. Greg Olsen, I think he'll have a big game for them as well, as he's been playing lights out lately. And the defense, even though they're not going to have Luke Kuechly again, Kuechly's still out with that concussion. I still like that defense to fluster Jameis Winston and the running game with Doug Martin, and maybe they'll contain Vincent Jackson, yet another fantasy guy of mine, even though I want to see a solid game from him too. So fantasy implications aplenty in this one, as I have Vincent Jackson as my receiver, and I also have the Carolina defense. So we'll see how it goes. But for right now, I'm going with Carolina to win this game. Final score here, I'm going to go 20 to 10. The Carolina Panthers to defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers behind Cam Newton, Jonathan Stewart, and Greg Olsen. We've been throwing some Ted Ginn Jr. for you. So 20 to 10, Carolina over Tampa. Michael Bullock, who you got?
Yeah, I do too. Have Carolina winning this one. Yeah, I think the final. I think the final score for me, I think is going to be. I'm going to go 21 to 10 in this one. I think Cam Newton's going to have a really good game. Greg Olsen, I think he'll have a good game as well, and of course, I think the defense will be solid, even though they don't have Luke Kuechly, who's probably going to be out, and no Charles Johnson as well, and he won't be back until no earlier than that Thanksgiving Day game against Dallas. But they did sign Jared Allen, so we'll see how he does. So really got nothing else to say except give me the Carolina Panthers to win this one. So that being said, Florio, I think we got one more 1:00 game, which I will talk about.
Yep, you'll be starting it off, and it will be the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Washington Redskins. FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. That's where the game will be. Game's going to be on Fox. The legendary Dick Stockton, along with David Deal and Christina Pink, they will be on the call for Fox. The Eagles are the favorites. 3-point favorites are the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. Very lengthy series history between these two. Washington leads the all-time series 81 to 73 with 5 ties. And according to this, they split last year. Both teams winning at home. Philly won in Philly. Washington won in Washington. Washington won last year 27 to 24 at FedEx Field. Philly's last win in Washington, not that long ago, just 2013, 33 to 27. Eagles, of course, coming off of their first win against the New York Jets, whereas the Washington Redskins were beaten on Thursday night by the New York Giants. So With all that said, Michael Bullock, Philly and Washington, NFC East rivalry. Who you got?
All
All right,
right.
Bullock, you're up.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Just got caught up a little bit. So yeah. This is a tough one for me to call. I mean, of course, when it comes to the Redskins, of course, they're coming off, of course, a loss, of course, last week to they're coming off of a loss last week, while of course the Eagles, of course, coming off of their first win of the year against the Jets. But even with that win, Sam Bradford was pretty much inefficient. But the thing is, of course, and I mean, the thing is, even though with that win, I still think the Eagles really didn't convince me that much. But and I think because of that, I'm gonna have to go with the Washington Redskins to win this one. Final score for me is gonna be I'm gonna go 21-17 is gonna be the final score. I think Alfred Morris is gonna have a good game. I think you're also going to see Jordan Reed and Pierre Garcon have good games. So I mean, yeah, even though I wanna go with Philly to win this one, I'm not really that convinced with the Philadelphia Eagles. So give me the Washington Redskins to win this one. So Florio, I give it to you.
Well, I believe this is the first time tonight, Michael Bullock. I have to respectfully disagree with you. I have the Philadelphia Eagles actually winning this game, especially after how they played against the Jets last week. And you say you're not convinced about Philadelphia. I'm not convinced with Washington, even though they did put up a solid effort against the Giants on that Thursday night the week before. But I agree. I mean, I think Sam Bradford will have a solid game for Philadelphia. I think DeMarco Murray will finally get going. Maybe we'll see some more Ryan Matthews because Ryan Matthews, I think, was the difference maker in that win against the Jets. And Darren Sproles, let's not forget about him. Darren Sproles had a special teams touchdown for Washington, so we'll see on that. And then also, as for Washington, I agree with you in all your assessments. I think Cousins should have a solid game. And I'm glad you mentioned Alfred Morris because guess what? Another fantasy stud of mine. Yes, he is. I am confident he will have a solid game. I hope he does because he's in my starting lineup. As you know, I'm playing Mike Fletcher this week, so it's a very big deal. That's why I'm going into that. So Garcon, maybe a big game from him. Maybe some Jordan Reed. I don't know. We'll see. But at the end, though, I got to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, got to respectfully disagree with Mr. Bullock here. I'm going to go 27-24. The Philadelphia Eagles go into FedEx Field and win their second in a row, and maybe start to get back on track. So with that said, that concludes the early game portion of our show. Now we're going to go into the late games now, and we're going to start it off with the Cleveland Browns going up against the San Diego Chargers. This game will be on CBS. Calling the game for CBS will be Andrew Catalon, Steve Berline, and Steve Tasker. Qualcomm Stadium in San Diego is the site. Chargers are the favorites, 6.5 to 7-point favorites. Series history favors the San Diego Chargers 14-8 with a tie. That one tie was in 1973. That was in Cleveland. Last meeting was in Cleveland, and the Browns won that 7-6. Last meeting in San Diego, got to go back to 2006. Chargers won that 32-25. And the last time the Cleveland Browns won in San Diego, you got to go all the way back to 1991 when the Browns won in San Diego 30-24 in overtime, back when it was known as Jack Murphy Stadium. So here we are now. The Browns, of course, losing at home to the Oakland Raiders a week ago, whereas the Chargers, another tough luck loss for them as they went down. So yeah, they're 1-2. So I got to go with the Chargers here. I think this is going to be a bounce back game for the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, I think he's going to have a big game. Same. Maybe we'll see some Melvin Gordon, but I think Keenan Allen and the receiving corps should have a big game. And this will be their last. I believe this should be their last game without Antonio Gates, because remember, Antonio Gates suspended for 4 games. He's already served 3 of those games, and this will be the last game of that suspension, as Antonio Gates will be eligible to come back next week or whenever their next game is. I don't know if they're on bye next week. I'll have to look into that, but nonetheless, though. Actually, he will be back next week, because the Chargers will be playing next Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So definitely going to be looking forward to that. But for right now, like I said, the Chargers coming off of a tough loss. Trying to see who they lost to. It was against the Minnesota Vikings. I just remembered that. They lost to Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings a week ago in Minnesota. So, but I like them to bounce back here. Like I said, Rivers, I expect him to go off again. I expect Keenan Allen to have another monster game. The defense will have some moments, and I don't trust Josh McCown as far as I can throw him. And this is another one of my locks of the week. It's not the lock of the week, but it's one of my locks of the week. I'm going with the San Diego Chargers to win this one pretty handily. I'm gonna go 31-13. The San Diego Chargers get back on the winning track and bounce back and have what should be an easy time, a relatively easy time with the Cleveland Browns. So 31-13, San Diego behind Rivers and company. So with that said, Michael Bullock, Browns and Chargers, who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the San Diego Chargers as well. I mean, after that tough loss, I think they're gonna bounce back in a big way, and Philip Rivers, I think he's gonna have a solid game. Yeah, and I mean when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, I just don't trust Josh McCown. So so really got nothing else to say. You pretty much touched on everything. So that being said, Florio, let's move on to our next game, which I'll talk about, of course.
Yes, you will. Yep. Yes, you will. I was just muting my mic. Going back to the Fox side of things, it's going to be the St. Louis Rams going up against the Arizona Cardinals, University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. That's where this game will emanate. This game, of course, will be on Fox. Just bear with me for a moment as I pull up the series history between these two, which pretty lengthy, to say the very least. Okay. Those two. But before I do that, calling the game for Fox will be none other than Tom Brenneman, Charles Davis, and Tony Siragusa. They'll be in the desert for that ball game. And the Arizona Cardinals are the favorites. Can't say I'm surprised with that. Arizona is the favorites, 7 to 7.5 point favorites against the Rams. Series history: Arizona leads the all-time series 36-34 with 2 ties. 1949 and 1953 were the 2 ties if you're scoring at home. And the Cardinals have won the last 3 meetings in this series, which means the Cardinals swept last year. They won both at home in Arizona and in the Dome in St. Louis. They split in 2013. Rams last won in Arizona in 2012. That was a 31-17 win for the Rams, but the Cardinals have won the last 2 years, 30-10 in 2013 and 31-14 last year. So another undefeated team, Michael Bullock, the Arizona Cardinals, hosting the Rams at home. So my question to you is, do the Cardinals suffer their first loss of the year, or do they keep on rolling?
Well, let's just say this, Florio. I think they're going to keep on rolling. I mean, with what they've done the last 2 weeks. I mean a 40-23 beatdown of Chicago and a 47-7 rout of the San Francisco 49ers. So back-to-back 40-point games, and I mean this is the first time since 1969 that they posted back-to-back 40-point games, and basically, of course, with what you saw from Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer's, and of course St. Louis coming off of a tough loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So because of that, I gotta go with the Arizona Cardinals to win this one. I think the final score for me is going to be, I'm going to go 41 to 14 is going to be the final score. Palmer's going to have a big game. Larry Fitzgerald, I think he's going to have a big game, and Andre Ellington looks like he's on his way back from a knee injury. I think he'll have a solid game, and maybe you'll get some Chris Johnson as well. And that defense, which was really all over San Francisco, I think will have a really solid game as well. And let's not forget, this was the same team that Carson Palmer, where he tore his ACL in a 31 to 14 win over the St. Louis Rams on November 9th last year. So this is a chance for him to basically redeem himself, and I think he's going to do it in a big way. So give me the Arizona Cardinals to win this one. Go to 4-0 on the season. So Florio, I give it to you.
I agree with you, my man. The Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to be in the top 3 in my power rankings. I'm going to tell you that right now, and I'm sure Michael Bullock will concur with me on that. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, man, what can you say? I mean, 3-0 on the year. The last 2 weeks, especially with those 2 holiday hammies of the Chicago Bears and the San Francisco 49ers, especially last week, 2 pick-6 touchdowns in the win. It's absolutely incredible to me. They made life miserable for Colin Kaepernick. I mean, picked him off 4 times in that win. I'll have some more on that when we do our power rankings in a short. But Carson Palmer, I expect him to have another big game. I also expect Larry Fitzgerald, who's discovered the fountain of youth, literally and figuratively. I think he's going to have another solid game as well. Throw in some Andre Ellington, perhaps. Maybe some Chris Johnson. Maybe some John Brown. You never know. And I think the defense will definitely fluster and get to Nick Foles. And I think they'll get to Trey Mason as well, and Tavon Austin, and those dynamic young receivers of the Rams. So yes, Arizona is indeed going to keep on rolling. They're going to go to 4-0. I like Zona. I like Zona pretty sizably in this one. You know what? I kind of like that final score, Michael Bullock. I think I'm gonna take that score too. 41 to 14. The Arizona Cardinals over the St. Louis Rams, and keep their winning ways going. So that's all I can say on that. All right, moving on to our next game. It will be the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Denver Broncos. Sports Authority Field at Mile High, the location. Fox will have this game. Kevin Burkhardt, John Lynch, and Pam Oliver will be on the call for this game. And believe it or not, Michael Bullock, we're actually going to be getting this game here in Rhode Island on our local Fox affiliate, Fox Providence, of course. We're going to have it on our end. And
I thought we'd be getting the other game, which
Green Bay and
is
San
America's
Fran?
Game of the Week.
No. According to the you know that site, the 506, those
Yeah,
506 maps.
I checked that out as well.
Um,
And I was surprised that we're not getting that Green Bay
San Fran game.
San Fran game since of course we know who's going to be calling that, but we'll get into that when we talk about it.
Yeah, in just a moment. That's going to be our next matchup, I do believe. But some history with Minnesota and Denver. Denver is the favorite, 7-point favorites across the board in favor of Denver. And series history favors the Minnesota Vikings, 7-6. They lead the all-time series. Denver, however, has won the last 2 meetings. Last meeting was in 2011. I'll never forget this game. Denver won that 35-32 at the old Metrodome in Minneapolis. I'll never forget that game. That was a 5-star classic, chock full of Shakespearean drama at its finest. And last meeting in Denver was in 2007. The Broncos won that game 22-19 in overtime. The last time the Minnesota Vikings won in Denver, got to go back to 1999. Minnesota won that 23-20 at the old Mile High Stadium, because I believe this stadium opened the following year, in the year 2000. So yeah, should be a very good game, to say the very least. Well, I mean, all I can say is it should be a great game indeed. Minnesota coming off of that big win against the Chargers. I mean, they've won 2 in a row after that horrific outing against the 49ers on that opening Monday night. They beat back-to-back home wins against the Detroit Lions and the San Diego Chargers. The Broncos, of course, they're 3-0. That defensive-oriented win against the Ravens, and then that unforgettable game against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium on that Thursday night. Shakespearean drama again at its finest. When Roby scooped up that Jamal Charles fumble and ran it back for the winning score. And then last week, had a bit of a time with the Detroit Lions at Ford Field last Sunday night, but Peyton Manning and company got it done, 24-12 winners there. So, yeah, like I said, it should be an interesting matchup here. I mean, you got Adrian Peterson, who's starting to get back into the thick of things, and Teddy Bridgewater. I think they'll have solid games, and Mike Wallace. I think he's going to have a solid game as well. But at the end of the day, though, Denver, man, I mean, I think it's going to be too much Peyton Manning, too much C.J. Anderson, too much Demaryius Thomas, and perhaps too much of some Owen Daniels, maybe some Virgil Green. I don't know. We'll see. But I just like Denver in this one. Denver's just too good right now. I mean, it's very hard for me to go against the Denver Broncos, especially at home. So, and I just want to check one more quick thing before I throw it to Bullock there. Yeah, we are indeed getting this Minnesota-Denver game. According to the 506 maps, games highlighted in green. We're highlighted in green, so we're gonna be getting this game indeed. So just wanted to check that real quick. So yes, Denver wins this one. Final score here. I'm gonna go. I'll go 38-21. The Denver Broncos over the Minnesota Vikings continue their winning ways. Peyton Manning goes off again, and Demaryius Thomas and the rest of them just too much for Minnesota to overcome. 38-21 Broncos over the Vikings. Michael Bullock, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos to win this one as well. I'm actually going to go 38-17 is going to be the final score. I mean, of course, Denver, I like what I've seen from them the first three games, of course, coming off of a 24-12 victory over the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football, where Peyton Manning went 31 of 42 for 324 yards and two scores, and of course the defense continues to be the bread and butter of that team. So yeah, and of course Minnesota, of course. I think it's going to be a little bit of a tough time for them. So give me the Denver Broncos to win this one. 38-17 is going to be the final. So that being said, let's move on to our next game on Fox,
And
which
yes,
I'll talk about. And of course, I think we already know who's going to call that game.
America's Game of the Week, the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers going up against the San Francisco 49ers, Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. Of course, the home of not just this year's upcoming Super Bowl 50, but also home to a very memorable WrestleMania 31, for those of you who may not have seen that. This game will be there, and Michael Bullock, you don't need a dirt sheet. You already know who's calling this game. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews, they'll be there. 7 to 9 point favorites are the Green Bay Packers in this game. And series history, Green Bay Packers lead the all-time series 30-27 with one tie. The one tie came in 1965. That was in San Francisco. And as of now, believe it or not, the 49ers have actually, counting playoffs, the 49ers have won the last four meetings in this series. Last met in 2013. 49ers won 34-28. That was also in San Francisco. And then the Niners went on to win the wild card game in Green Bay. And then the following year, in 2012, San Fran did the same. Only they won in Green Bay in the regular year, and then won at home in the divisional round. Last time the Packers won in San Fran, got to go back to 2006. That was a 30-19 win for the Packers. So a lot of history between these two. A lot of playoff meetings, whether it was the wild card, the divisionals, or even in the NFC Championship games. So with that said, Michael Bullock, Green Bay Packers, San Francisco 49ers, a lot of history here, I understand, but America's Game of the Week, especially with how the Niners have been playing, I don't think so.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to San Fran, This is a team that has allowed 90 points and nearly 900 yards of total offense the last 2 games. And you're going up against an offense like the Green Bay Packers, where you got Aaron Rodgers and of course Randall Cobb and all that. Good luck with that. And I'll be quite honest with you. And because of the way the defense has been playing for San Fran, it's not giving me any confidence. And I'm not going to believe and you're not going to believe what I'm going to have to say here. I think the Green Bay Packers will win this one, and I think the final score for me is going to be, I'm actually going to go 41. I'm going to go 41 to 17 is going to be the final score. I mean, I just don't have that confidence in San Fran where they're going to make it a competitive game. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is going to go off. Yeah, and of course, Randall Cobb's going to have a good game, and I think the defense led by Clay Matthews will have a good game. But oh yeah, and also you got James Jones, who I think will have a good game. So yeah, so really got nothing else to say except give me the Green Bay Packers to win this one. So Florio, I give it to you.
A lot of in a lot of years, I mean, when the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers got together, I mean, so many of their games have had, a lot of their games have been 5-star classics and chock full of some of the finest Shakespearean drama you will ever see. But are you really expecting it in this one? No, not this time around. I mean, yeah, the Niners had that great performance against Minnesota. Remember that? I don't. Because the last 2 weeks, I mean, been pounded to a pulp. 90-25 in the last 2 games. They lose. They get beaten down in Pittsburgh, 43-18 against the Steelers at Heinz Field, and then in the desert last week, a 47-7 beatdown in which Colin Kaepernick had, I can honestly say, the worst game of his pro career, getting picked, throwing 4 picks in that game, including 2 pick sixes. Yeah, they may be going back home to Levi's Stadium, but Green Bay, man, I mean, come on, they're unbeaten. They beat Chicago. And then they get their revenge on the Seabags in the NFC Championship and Atlanta in that NFC title rematch. And then another win against Kansas City, against the Kansas City Chiefs team last Monday night, 38-28. So needless to say, Aaron Rodgers goes off again. Eddie Lacy's going to go off. Randall Cobb's going to go off. James Jones is going to go off. And so far, can't believe I'm saying this, but no Jordy Nelson, no problem. I mean, this team can win without him. Honestly, and
it's also the point of saying who needs Jordy Nelson,
at least for this year. I mean,
well, just for this year, yeah. Good point on that.
We all remember Jordy Nelson. His season got cut. His season ended before it even started in that preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. Jacked up his knee very badly and was done for the year. Everybody was panicking. The sky was falling in Green Bay, and I know somewhere Aaron Rodgers was saying RELAX, relax. And so far, he's been right. Everything is fine in Green Bay, and it will continue to be fine as the Green Bay Packers will go into Levi's Stadium. It may not be a heist of the century like Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, but I do think Green Bay will win this one going away and add to the Niners' misery. So final score for me, 45-17. The Green Bay Packers all over the San Francisco 49ers. This is my number 2 lock of the week. So, yeah. So with that said, let's see. I believe you didn't you lead off on that last one, Bullet?
Yes, I did. So you lead off on the Sunday night game.
Yes, I do. And I just wanted to be sure. All right, Sunday Night Football now. The Dallas Cowboys going up against the New Orleans Saints, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, home of another proud WrestleMania moment and one that's near and dear to my heart and Michael Bullock's heart, the Miracle on Bourbon Street. You know that story by now. So Mercedes-Benz Superdome was the location. Sunday Night Football. You know who's calling this game. The great Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Michelle Tafoya. They'll be in the Dome. And the Saints are 3-point favorites in this game. And series history, the Dallas Cowboys lead the all-time series 16-11. Last meeting was a year ago. That was in Jerry World in Dallas. The Cowboys won that 38-17. Last time the Saints won the last game in New Orleans was in 2013. I believe that was a Sunday night game, and the Saints won that one going away 49-17. That was the final there. And the last time the Cowboys came out of New Orleans with a win was in 2009. Cowboys won that 24-17. That was on a Saturday night game, believe it or not. And also that was when the Cowboys handed the Saints their first loss that year because the Saints were undefeated going into that game. But nonetheless, in 2009, the New Orleans Saints, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl against the Indianapolis Colts. So, yeah, Saints are 0-3, coming off of another tough loss against the Carolina Panthers, whereas the Dallas Cowboys suffered their first loss of the year, a home loss to the Atlanta Falcons, 39-28. Still no Tony Romo, still no Dez Bryant, so they have to rely on Brandon Weeden and Joseph Randle, and along with Darren McFadden in the running game and Terrence Williams. I think they'll have solid games, but here's the thing. Last time I heard, I do believe Drew Brees will be playing for the New Orleans Saints. So I think this is a great chance for the New Orleans Saints to get off the schneid and finally win their first game of the year. So I'm going to take a chance. Now, here's the thing. If Tony Romo and Dez Bryant were playing, no doubt I would have gone with the Dallas Cowboys in this game. But they're both out. Give me the Saints in this one. I think Drew Brees will have a big enough game. I'm hoping for Marcus Colston to have a big game. That's another fantasy guy of mine. Hoping he has a solid game as well. And I don't trust Brandon Weeden. And Terrence Williams, good young receiver, but I don't know if he's going to have a good enough game to get a win here. And that running game with Randall and McFadden. I mean, hey, Randall had a great game last week, but I don't think it's going to be enough in this case. So I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints to win this one. I think it could be a high-scoring affair, despite all that. So I'm going to go 31-28, the New Orleans Saints over the Dallas Cowboys in the Superdome on Sunday Night Football. So, Michael Bullock, do the Saints get their first win, or are the Cowboys going to actually steal one without their top two offensive playmakers?
I think this is the time where the New Orleans Saints finally get their first win of the year. I do agree. I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to go actually. I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to say 34-31 is going to be the final score. I think Drew Brees is going to have a good game, and you also probably will see, of course. You also probably see Mark Ingram and the rest of that offense will play well. And I mean, yeah, Brandon Weeden, yeah, good luck to him on that. I mean, Joseph Randle, he had a solid game, and Terrence Williams, I mean, I really don't think it's going to be enough to help the Dallas Cowboys win this one. So yeah, so really got nothing else to say except giving the New Orleans Saints to win this one. So Florio, Monday Night Football time.
Monday Night Football time, indeed, Michael Bullock. Our final game of the week, the Detroit Lions going up against the Seattle Seahawks, CenturyLink Field in Seattle, a location. Calling the game, you know who's going to be calling this one? Mike Tirico, John Gruden, and Lisa Salters. They'll be there in Seattle. Seattle leads the all-time series 7-5. However, Detroit won the last meeting. That was in 2012 in Detroit, 28-24. Last meeting in Seattle was in 2009. The Seahawks won that 32-20. Last time the Lions won in Seattle, you got to go all the way back to 1999 when the Lions beat the Seahawks 28-20. Not sure if that was in the Kingdome or if that was in I think that was in the Kingdome, actually, because I think 99 was the last year the Seahawks were in the Kingdome. So and the Seabags are the biggest favorites of the week, 9.5 to 10.5 point favorites according to my spreads. So Michael Bullock, I already know who you got, but just give us your brief thoughts anyway.
Yeah, I gotta go with the Seattle Seahawks to win this one. I mean, basically coming off of a shutout of the Chicago Bears, and basically with Jimmy Graham finally having his first big game as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, and of course, they also got the yeah, and of course, they're. Of course, they also got the return of Cam Chancellor last week, which really put a spark in that defense. Yeah, and Detroit, of course, coming off a loss to Denver on Sunday Night Football. But to me, I think the final score for me is going to be, I'm going to go 28-24 is going to be the final score. Russell Wilson's going to have a good game. Jimmy Graham's going to have a good game. Uh, Marshawn Lynch, we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. I think the defense is definitely going to have another big game. And yeah, and of course you're going into the home of the 12th man. Yeah, advantage Seahawks. So give me the Seahawks to win this one. Florio, I give it to you.
Yeah. This to me is my lock of the week right here, Bullock. I don't trust the Detroit Lions as far as I can throw them. I mean, especially after last week. Granted, they hung in there against Denver for the most part, but Denver was just too big and too strong at the end of that game last Sunday night. Seattle is the biggest favorite of the week, 9.5 to 10-point favorites. Like I said, I mean, they're in CenturyLink Field, 12th man, Legion of Boom. That defense is going to be all over Matthew Stafford like melting butter. And I think they're going to contain Calvin Johnson. I think they'll contain Amir Abdullah. I think they'll even contain Golden Tate, former teammates. So I expect Russell Wilson to have another big game. I think the same thing for Jimmy Graham. We'll see about Marshawn Lynch. I know he's been battling an injury bug lately, but we'll see if he's good to go. And Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, I think they'll have big games as well. And I think the Legion of Boom, like I said, will feast on Matthew Stafford and that supposedly high-powered Detroit offense. So I got to say the Seattle Seahawks win this one. This is my lock of the week. 27-10, the Seattle Seahawks get back on the winning track, continue their winning ways, and continue a miserable season so far for the Detroit Lions. So that's it for that. All right, now it's time for our Strictly Sports NFL Saturday Power Rankings for this week, and as of now, I believe I will be starting it off. I'm going to tell you right now, number one, that has not changed. You already know who's going to be number one, and they're going to stay there because they're going to be on bye this week. So if that's not any hint, I don't know what is. So I do have a dud when it comes to the power rankings. I have two duds, as a matter of fact. Actually, make it three duds. First and foremost, the New York Jets. They lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. But then again, maybe I may make room for them. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Dallas Cowboys. That was a tough loss for them. I think I might have to knock them out, considering the nature of that loss. But I can definitely say the Kansas City Chiefs will not be in my rankings this week, especially after going down to Green Bay. So that pretty much killed their hopes. So I think you pretty much know where I'm going with all this. So yes. Without any further ado, start it off, and well, I'll tell you right now. I mean, there will be some new additions to the power rankings this week. I can honestly say that. Actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna start it off at. I think I'm gonna start it off with a tie at number 10, just to be. I do apologize for that pop up. So it's becoming an epidemic around here lately. Let me see. I think I'm gonna actually have a tie at number 10 because of a couple of tough luck losses for these teams. Tie at number 10. That's a no doubter. I'm actually going to make room for the New York Jets. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it was only a 7-point loss. I mean, it wasn't that bad. If it was a blowout, then they were getting blown out, but they made it a game late, but it was too little, too late. So I'm gonna start off at a tie at number 10, the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jets, of course, they lose to the Philadelphia Eagles last week, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, it was only because Pittsburgh. I had them at number 8 last week, but I'm dropping them because of the fact that it was they barely got by St. Louis, and I'm not sure if they're going to be in next week's rankings because they had that tough loss to Baltimore on Thursday night. So we'll see how that goes for next week. But for right now, tie at number 10, the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tough losses indeed. Well, one was a tough loss. The other was a just barely win. So with that said, Michael Bullock, do you agree with me or do you have somebody else altogether at number 10?
Yeah, I agree with you. I got the Jets and Steelers as my number 10 as well. So yeah, you pretty much touched on everything. So let's not waste any more time. Let's move on to number 9.
Do you want it or do you want me to take it?
You can take this one.
Yeah, I figured. All right. Okay. Looking around the power rankings here, I know this may come as a surprise, but as far as who I have at number 9, I know I'm about to surprise a lot of people here, my friends. I can honestly tell you that right now. My number 9, this is going to shock a lot of people, like I said. But my number 9, believe it or not, as I think about it, can't believe I'm saying this, folks, but the Oakland Raiders have cracked the power rankings. Yes, the Oakland Raiders are in the power rankings. I mean, I
Oh
got to
man,
do it.
hell is frozen over.
I got to do it. I mean, 2 in a row, 2-1 record. I mean, why not? I mean, we saw what they did against the Cleveland Browns last week. They got a win there. And remember, they also beat the Ravens. So they've won 2 in a row. I mean, they were an honorable mention last week. I probably should have made an argument for them, but after what they did to Cleveland, I mean, I gotta do it. I mean, and who knows? This team could even be. They could be if they beat Chicago, they'll definitely be in again next week. I mean, 2 in a row for them. I mean, very impressed with their body of work. I mean, 469 yards of total offense in the win. Defense forced 2 turnovers, recorded 5 sacks of Browns quarterback Josh McCown. Latavius Murray, 139 yards rushing and a touchdown. Derek Carr, 314 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. And Amari Cooper, 134 yards receiving. So, yeah, and 5 sacks, like I said. Khalil Mack had 2. Neron Ball, Ray Armstrong, and Malcolm Smith had the other sacks of Josh McCown, I should say, who was taking over for Johnny Manziel. But yes, a very impressive performance by the Raiders, and they've now won 2 games in a row, which is a shock to a lot of people. I am aware of that. So yes, the Oakland Raiders are going to be my number 8. I mean, I should say my number 9, rather. Actually, you know what? I actually have a tie at number 10. Number 9. And
Number 9, number 9.
Yeah, number 9. Yeah, long night. Hang on, 5. All right, I just wanted to check that. 3. Okay. This will be the last tie. I can honestly tell you, this will be my last tie. First is going to be the Oakland Raiders, absolutely, and my other number 9 is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, Minnesota's won 2 games in a row, 31-14 against the San Diego Chargers. I mean, didn't really expect them to do much, but hey, look what they've done. I mean, yeah, they may have been outgained 369-284 against San Diego, but the defense forced 2 turnovers, recorded 4 sacks of Phillip Rivers, Adrian Peterson 136 yards of rushing and 2 touchdowns in the victory, and then saving the receiving core, which was pedestrian, as was Teddy Bridgewater, and the defense, like I said, with 4 sacks. 1.5 for Everson Griffin, 1 for Tom Johnson, 1 for Anthony Barr, and a half sack for Sharif Floyd. I mean, defense and Adrian Peterson. That was pretty much the difference in this very impressive win for the Vikings over the San Diego Chargers. So my last tie, I promise you, at number 9, the Oakland Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings. Michael Bullock, what say you?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. The Oakland Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings are my number 9. So yeah, really got nothing else to say. You touched on everything. So let's move on to our number 8.
I guess I'm going to be leading off again.
Yeah.
I figured. All right. You know what? No problem. Because I'll tell you right now, these 8 teams to me were no brainers as far as I'm concerned. This will be the last 2-1 team, and then all the others, and then the other 7, 1 through 7, are going to be undefeated teams. So I'll tell you that right now. I just want to make sure that we have 7. Yes, we have 7 undefeated teams. They'll all be standalones based on the body of work. So with that said, my number 8, standalone number 8. Oh, I'm going to love this one. My number 8 is my team, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, what can you say about the Buffalo Bills? I mean, 41-14 beatdown of the Miami Dolphins at Sun Life Stadium last Sunday, much to my delight. I mean, I cannot tell you how impressed I was with my team. I mean, wow. 428 yards of offense. They forced 3 Miami turnovers. They recorded 2 sacks. And Tyrod Taylor, 277 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Carlos Williams, 110 yards and a touchdown in the win. Charles Clay returns to Miami and sticks it to his former team, 82 yards receiving and a touchdown. Chris Hogan, a receiving touchdown, as did LaShawn McCoy. But the thing is, LaShawn McCoy will not be playing this week, as will, along with Sammy Watkins. He's not going to be playing either. The 2 sacks were Marcel Darius and Stephon Charles. The interception, 2 interceptions, Preston Brown. 2 interceptions by Preston Brown and 1 by Ronald Darby. Preston Brown, of course, took one back to the house, 46 yards. So this team would have been higher, but the thing is, 7 undefeated teams remaining. I got to put them all ahead. But out of all the 2-1 teams, far and away, the Buffalo Bills are the best of them. So my number 8, my team, the Buffalo Bills, stand alone. Michael Bullock, what do you say?
Yeah, definitely. It's the Buffalo Bills, since they are the last 2-1 team left on there. So Buffalo Bills are my number 8. So let's move on to our number 7, which is, of course, now we get to our 3-0 teams.
Yep. Yes, we do, Michael Bullock. Yes, we do. And well, you would think it would be tough to dissect, but you know what? I don't think it's as tough as you think. So all right, here we go. Starting it off at number 7, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers at number 7. To me, I think they're the weakest of the undefeated teams so far. Even though they are 3-0, and I'm very impressed with their body of work, to say the very least. Barely getting by. They had to come from behind to defeat the New Orleans Saints. They only won it 27-22. Defense forced 2 turnovers, recorded a sack. They outgained New Orleans 431-380. Cam Newton 315 yards and 2 touchdowns in the victory against the New Orleans Saints. Far and away the best effort from Cam Newton this season. The running game, Newton also had a rushing touchdown in the win. Jonathan Stewart only 52 yards. And I do apologize for that. These pop-ups are just insane. All right. Greg Olsen, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Ted Ginn Jr. had 93 yards receiving. And defense held him in check. And Shaq Thompson had the lone sack of Luke McCown in the win. Luke McCown, of course, filling in for Drew Brees. But with the New Orleans Saints, they somehow, some way get it done. 3-0. Very impressive body of work. So with that said, my number 7, standalone, the Carolina Panthers. Michael Bullock, your number 7.
Yes, my number 7. I gotta go with the Carolina Panthers as well. As yeah, you pretty much touched on it. So now let's move on to our number 6.
All right.
And I'll actually take it.
All right. Who you got?
All right. My number 6. I gotta go with the other team from the NFC South, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, I know some people are saying this team should be in the top 5, but I think they're on the outside looking in when it comes to when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons, of course, I mean, because I got 5 other teams that are just they're just a smidget better than the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, of course, they had to basically. And the thing is, when it comes to Atlanta, I mean, they had to come back from a 14-point deficit to beat the Dallas Cowboys without Tony Romo and Des Bryant. Now, if they'd done that against Tony Romo and Des Bryant, then and only then, I would put this team in the top 5. To be quite honest with you, so yeah, of course, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones basically were leading the way in that comeback win. So yeah, so my number 6 is the Atlanta Falcons. So Florio, I give it to you.
It was a little tough, but you know what, Michael Bullock, you're absolutely right. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons as my number 6 as well. 3-0. A big comeback against the Dallas Cowboys a week ago, 39-28 was the final in Jerry World. 438 yards of offense for the Atlanta Falcons, and yep, and of course the pop-up comes up again. What a shock! It's insane. I mean, it's becoming an epidemic around here. Wish I knew how to get rid of these things, but nonetheless, 438 yards. And they forced the turnover. They recorded 2 sacks on defense. Matt Ryan, 285 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Devontae Freeman was the star, 141 yards and 3 touchdowns in the win. Julio Jones as well, 12 catches, 164 yards and 2 touchdowns in the victory. And Adrian Claiborne and Vic Beasley Jr. had the sacks of Brandon Weeden. So I love Jones. I also love Devontae Freeman. I think he's going to have another big game against the Texans later on. So yeah, I do agree with Michael Bullock's sentiments. The Atlanta Falcons are my number 6. So I'll start off the top 5, and very tough when it comes to the top 5. If I'm going to be honest with you, I'll tell you what though. I will admit this: my top 2 are no-brainers. 3, 4, and 5, however, well, I got to figure that out if I'm going to be quite honest with you. I got to base it on the body of work and everything else as I see fit. So as I look at it, I'll tell you right now, the 3 teams I have in the 3, 4, and 5 in the 3 to 5 range, in no particular order: the Cincinnati Bengals, the Denver Broncos, and the Green Bay Packers. I think we're both agreed on that. Question is, where do we put them? Who should be 5, who should be 4, and who should be 3 at this particular point in time? But when you base it on the body of work, as it pertains to what we've seen lately, and especially against the caliber of the opponents and everything else, I'm going to start it off at number 5. I'm actually going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be number 5 in this installment of the Power Rankings, because they had a rough time with a winless Baltimore Ravens team, but they still found a way to get it done. They won it 28-24 behind a huge game from Andy Dalton. I mean, the offense altogether, 458 yards of offense in the win. I mean, just absolutely incredible. I mean, really loving the body of work right now. I mean, okay, there we go. 458 yards of offense for Cincinnati. What concerns me is they committed 2 turnovers, and they were sacked, and Andy Dalton was sacked twice. The defense only forced 1 turnover, did not get any sacks, but the offense, did enough to get it done. Andy Dalton, 383 yards, 3 TDs and a pick. Giovanni Bernard, the running game was non-existent, even though Dalton had a rushing touchdown. Giovanni Bernard led the running game with only 49 yards. Not going to get it done. AJ Green, though, 227 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Marvin Jones, 94 yards and a touchdown in the win. So the offense did just enough. I thought they looked a little sloppy early, but But Dalton had a good enough game. Green had a good enough game, but the running game was a little weak, and the defense, I wanted to see more from them. So with that said, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be my number 5 in the power rankings. So Michael Bullock, do you agree, or do you have somebody else?
All right. I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals as my number 5. So I agree with you on that. So yeah, you pretty much touched on everything else. So let's move on to number 4. And Florida, you said it comes down to, like you said, either Green Bay or Denver.
Yes, I did. I think Denver and Green Bay are the perfect fits for 3 and 4. But the question is, where do you put them?
All right. As far as my number 4 goes, this is tough. I know this is probably not going to be a popular decision, but I'm actually going to go with the Denver Broncos here. I mean, yeah, here's the thing. Yeah, they struggled a little bit in the early part of the season, and and just squeaked through a win against Kansas City in a dramatic way. And of course, they're coming off of a win over Detroit 24-12, and Peyton had what I thought was his best game of the season so far, where he threw for 2 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing. So, I mean, as much as I wanted to put Denver a little higher, I even though we do know now, I just think Green Bay's just a smidget better than Denver. So the Denver Broncos are my number 4. So Fleur, I give it to you.
It was tough, but Michael Bullock, you got it right. The Denver Broncos are number 4 in this installment of the power rankings. I mean, like Bullock said, they struggled mightily against Baltimore. All their wins were pretty close, and they had a little bit of a rough time with the Detroit Lions before they ultimately pulled away, 24-12. And Peyton Manning, 354 yards of offense. They did commit 2 turnovers, and Peyton Manning was sacked once, but the defense redeemed themselves. They forced 3 turnovers, held the Lions to 290 yards of offense. In addition to forcing 3 turnovers, they also had 4 sacks of Matthew Stafford. Manning, 324 yards, 2 TDs. He threw a pick, but that's okay. The running game, though, very pedestrian, even though Ronnie Hillman had a rushing touchdown. CJ Anderson, led the rushing with only 18 yards. Yeah, that's not going to get it done. And Demaryius Thomas, 92 yards and a touchdown. Owen Daniels had a receiving touchdown in the win. And 4 sacks in the win. 1.5 sacks by DeMarcus Ware. 1 sack for Sylvester Williams. 1 sack for Shaquille Barrett. And a half a sack for Malik Jackson. So, but yeah, a little rough early, but they ultimately pulled away in the 4th and got a big win in Detroit. 24-12 was the final for the Denver Broncos. So yeah, Michael Bullock, you got this one right. The Denver Broncos are number 4, so definitely makes things easier. Number 3 in the power rankings, as I'm going to start it off here. This is no doubt about it. This is the Green Bay Packers at number 3 in the power rankings. They're 3-0 as well. I know I drastically underscored this team last week. Major blunder on my part, and Fletcher ripped me to shreds, and rightfully so. But they're number 3 in my eyes. 448 yards of offense. They did not commit any turnovers. Aaron Rodgers was only sacked once, but here's the thing: they may have only forced 1 Kansas City turnover, but the defense recorded 7 sacks in the win. 7 sacks. Incredible. Aaron Rodgers, 333 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. My only concern, though, again, the running game. Eddie Lacy only had 46 yards to lead the team in that area. James Jones, 139 yards and a touchdown in the win. Randall Cobb, 91 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Packers, and 7 sacks for the defense. 2 sacks for Clay Matthews. 1.5 sacks for Mike Daniels. 1 sack apiece for Nick Perry, Jayrone Elliott,
and Joe Thomas, and then a half a sack from Mike Neal, 7 altogether, and an interception by Sam Shields, but an all-around impressive performance for the Green Bay Packers. 38-28 victors over the Kansas City Chiefs. Going up against the San Francisco 49ers later today. Should be an easy win for them. So no question about this. The Green Bay Packers, number 3. So Michael Bullock, I think we're gonna have another agreement here. Am I right?
Yep, Green Bay Packers, my number 3. So yeah, really got nothing else to say except let's move on to number 2, and I will lead off on that. And my number 2, it is definite, and I think we're going to be in agreement here. It is the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the body of work of this team has just been awesome so far in the first 3 games. I mean, especially in the last 2 games where they basically put up 40 points in the last 2 games. I mean, especially last week with a 47-7 beatdown of the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald had, of course, I mean, so far, I mean, he's got 23 receptions and 5 touchdown catches, which leads the league, and of course, Carson Palmer, who had a really good game last week against San Francisco, and the defense basically with what they did, turning with the two of the interceptions going back for touchdowns. So yeah, this Arizona Cardinals team is so far they're looking like the real deal, and as we said, I think they're going to go 4-0. So yeah, so the Arizona Cardinals are my number 2. So Florio, I give it to you.
Yeah, we're going to have a perfect power rankings here tonight. The Arizona Cardinals, indeed, at number 2. I mean, this is a no-brainer indeed. I mean, they've outscored their opponents 126-49 in their 3 wins. Wins against New Orleans, 31-19, and then the last 2 weeks, of course, 95-30. 48-23 over Chicago, and then 47-7 against San Fran. 446 yards of offense. Yeah, they committed a turnover, but so freaking what? And then Carson Palmer was sacked once, but here's the thing. They held the 49ers to 10 first downs altogether. Total yards of 100. They held them to a total of 156 yards. They forced 4 turnovers and recorded 2 sacks. That was just the defense alone. The offense, Carson Palmer, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw a pick. So what? Chris Johnson, far and away the best game he's had in a very long time, probably since his days in Tennessee. 110 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. He discovered the fountain of youth, as does Larry Fitzgerald, 134 yards and 2 more touchdowns for Arizona. And like I said, Frosty Rucker and Lamar Woodley had the 2 sacks of Colin Kaepernick, 4 interceptions, like I said, Gerard Powers, Justin Bethel, and 2 for the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, formerly out of LSU, as everybody remembers. And 2 of those were pick sixes. Mathieu had 1 and Justin Bethel had the other. So all around total team effort for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, very impressive indeed. 47-7 beatdown. They go up against the St. Louis Rams this afternoon. That should be another easy win for them. So that's all there is to say on that. So Arizona Cardinals number 2. Number 1, yeah, I wonder who that's going to be. Oh, yeah. Michael Bullock's team, the reigning and defending Super Bowl champions, the New England Patriots, still number 1, and they're number 1 this time around with a bullet. 51-17 beatdown over the dud Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, come on. This outcome was never in doubt. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, just incredible what they did. They put up 471 yards of offense, held Jacksonville to 293 yards of offense, forced a turnover. The defense got 2 sacks of Blake Bortles. Yeah, Tom Brady was sacked twice. That was pretty much the only blemish they had. No turnovers. Tom Brady, the revenge tour continues. 358 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The LeGarrette Blunt force trauma was back in full force. 78 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dion Lewis, a rushing touchdown for him. I know, Mr. Bullock, I know how very high up you are on that young man, and rightfully so. I know
He's been a very nice addition to this team and making people forget about Shane Vereen.
Yeah, and Shane Vereen, of course, with the Giants now. Rob Gronkowski, 101 yards receiving, no touchdowns, but that's okay. Julian Edelman, 85 yards receiving. Danny Amendola and Keyshawn Martin had the 2 receiving touchdowns for the Patriots. Gostkowski was perfect kicking the ball. And on the defensive side, Jabal Sheard and Jamie Collins had the sacks of Blake Bortles. And Devin McCourty also had an interception in the game. So you're reigning and defending undisputed Super Bowl champions. Say what you want about them, but they just keep getting it done. And since they're on bye this week, they're automatically going to stay at number 1 next week. So before, of course, next week, when they head up to Jerry World for that showdown with the Dallas Cowboys, which may be a lot easier now than people think, because remember, no Tony Romo, no Dez Bryant. So who knows? Maybe it could be easy pickings for the champs next week. So number 1, yet again, and at least for the next couple of weeks, it is your reigning and defending Super Bowl champions, much to the delight of Mr. Michael James Bullock. It is the New England Patriots. All right, Mr. Bullock, wax poetic on your team, if you will. Mr. Bullock, you're number 1. We already know who it is.
I forgot to unmute my mic. So, yeah, number 1, New England Patriots. What can you say about them? Say what you want about them, and I mean, they just continue to win. And, I'm really like the Dion Lewis with what he's done, not only running the ball, but catching it as well. Gronk being Gronk, as always, and what you see from Julian Edelman as well. And the defense, well, it's basically been a bend but don't break defense. And we saw some history. Of course, Tom Brady throwing his 400th career touchdown pass, joining the 400 touchdown club. So congratulations to him on that. So yeah, really got nothing else to say except number 1, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots. They'll stay that way again next week since they are on the bye. So with that being said, Florio, let's just put a wrap on this night.
Yes, and that will conclude this very late edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. We thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, next Saturday night here on Strictly Sports NFL Saturday, some of the headline games we'll be getting into. The Seattle Seahawks going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cannot wait to get into that one. How about, and of course, the New England Patriots against the Dallas Cowboys. You know we're going to get into that. And I never thought I'd say this for the first time in a long time. A game between the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders could actually mean something. Did I just say that? Oh my God. That game just actually may have had some implications, big time, especially if both teams come through today, which I think they're both going to. And then, of course, Niners and the Giants, and then, of course, the Steelers and the Chargers, just some of the games that we'll be getting into next week on Strictly Sports NFL Saturday. Of course, this week, the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots, the first 2 teams on bye. Next week, the Carolina Panthers, the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New York Jets. All 4 of those teams will be on the bye next week. So that and a whole lot more to look forward to next Saturday on NFL Saturday. Of course, the next time we'll be seeing you folks will be on Monday night for another edition of the Wrestling Forum. Monday Night Raw, we're going to be reviewing it. Should be very interesting, to say the very least, considering what's been going on with the ratings and whatnot. Lowest ratings in 18 years for the last Raw. Hopefully this show on Monday night will deliver. Pray to God. And then, of course, Friday night, College Football Friday, headlined, of course, by the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas, and, of course, Northwestern and Michigan. And I can also tell you one thing right now, folks, before we sign off. The power rankings on this upcoming Friday's College Football Friday, biggest shakeups to date. Oh, yes. Major, big-time shakeups come Friday night. So, and then, of course, next Saturday, NFL Saturday. So there you go. So I'll do it for this. So until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, Anthony Florio here for Michael Bullock, and in spirit, Derek Ferreira and Michael Fletcher saying, you know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up 14-4 style. Bye for now, my friends. Enjoy your NFL Sunday. Enjoy all the NFL action. And until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, you've been watching Strictly Sports NFL Saturday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. And for now, Anthony Florio, so long.